everyone, it's Nancy here with you today, and I'm going to show you how I cut my 8.5 by 11 cardstock for my mini books. I've had a few questions on this. It's a little different than maybe you've done before, and I'm showing you with a piece of basil. Basil has usually, depends on what you get, texture on one side and smooth on the other. The texture side has a band, and I call it an advertising band. I don't know what it's really called, but I usually leave that on because sometimes I can use it as a seam and do a flip with it, and you won't even see the band when it's finished. This is the paper trimmer that I use on a regular basis. It's a Carl cutter. This company is fabulous. I've had my first Carl cutter I had for probably a good 20 years or more. I've only changed the blade in it, which is a rotary cutter, a few times. And I normally change the plastic insert where the blade cuts more frequently than I do the rotary blade. What I do want to tell you about this company, they are not paying me to say this, but the reason I think they're so wonderful, my old cutter, which I said I had for about 20 years, I had it for so long, the measurements on my cutter were starting to wear out. They were so light I could barely read them. And I called the company and said, is there any way that you can re-ink these or whatever, however they make these marks for the measurements? And they said, no, our cutters are guaranteed for life. Send it back or send us a picture, we'll send you a new one. So I sent it back, and I got this one about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I guess. This will probably last the rest of my life the way I'm going. So anyway, what I do on this particular cutter is 12 inches wide. It'll cut paper 12 inches wide and 15 inches tall. And when I cut paper 8.5 by 11 for my mini books, I make the smallest cut first. If you make the smallest cut first, you will almost always be guaranteed that you'll have enough paper for the rest of the cuts. Because this is 8.5 by 11 paper, and I'm going to show you with my ruler so you can see a little bit better, I turn my paper sideways so that the 11 inches is across. So let's say I want to cut a piece that's 6 by 8. I cut the 6 inches first, and the way I do that, if my paper is 8.5 inches wide, I try to think of a way to save most of the paper for another use within the book. So for this one being, and I have to move this camera back a little bit, if I want a piece that's 6 inches wide, I'm going to cut the 6 inch first. Yeah, there we go. And then I'll cut the 8 inches. Anytime I have a piece that is a piece that I need cut 8.5 inches or less, I use the width portion of the paper, since this is 8.5. And I'll cut my shortest piece from the 11 inch side. I'm sorry, forgetting words here. So if I want something 8 inches by 4 inches, I'll cut the 4 inches and then I'll cut the 8 inches. I always try to make use of this 8.5 by 11. So I hope that makes sense. And on my instructions, beginning with this month, which is, what is this? Gosh, this COVID has me so confused. June 2020. I will show you on the instructions exactly how I cut my paper. I hope that helps, and I hope to see you soon at the Button Farm Club. Thank you.